Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining episode 9 of It's Bigger Than You Think, a podcast, a conversation about the politics that most impact our daily lives. I'm your host, Annie Moore, and joining me today is New Jersey Assemblywoman Jean Stanfield. She's actually running for a state Senate seat this year as well. Assemblywoman, we're so excited to have you on today.
It's my pleasure, Annie. Thank you so much.
All righty, let's just get right to it. Can you tell us your story, what made you run for office, and why state Senate now?
Sure. Actually, I was Burlington County Sheriff for 18 years. And before that, I was undersheriff and an assistant prosecutor. So I had put over 30 years in state government and county government, and I was ready to retire. So I really did not have any intention at all of running for the assembly. But we had a little shakeup here in Burlington County when our state senator, Dawn Addiego, flipped and became a Democrat. And that got me pretty riled up. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring, run for assembly, and now I'm presently running against her for state senate.
That's exciting.
It is.
New Jersey is one of 2 states that has elections up this year, so there's a lot more attention on here than normal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you said you were sheriff of Burlington County for nearly 2 decades. What did that kind of teach you about your community?
You know, Burlington County is an amazing community. We're very diverse. Some people grew up here, others have moved into the area from, say, North Jersey. And the people are really amazing. They come together. When I was sheriff, we did a lot of community programs, and every year we did a toy drive. And especially the worse the economy got and the more people were hurting themselves, the more generous they became. And, you know, they gave to their community. And it's really heartwarming to see that. And it's a very nice place to live and work. But people are very concerned also as to whether they're going to be able to stay here. You know, they love Burlington County. We have a lot of open space and farms, but they're worried about affordability issues. And that's across the board, whether you talk to senior citizens, young families that are just getting started, and particularly our business community. You know, they're all very concerned because our taxes are so high here in New Jersey.
So similar to Washington, D.C., that's totally run by Democrats right now, Trenton is totally run by Democrats, obviously, in New Jersey. What are some of the things that you wish that you guys, if you were in the majority, if Republicans were in the majority, what would you do instead to kind of make New Jersey more of a economic hub instead of all these sky-high taxes and regulations and things?
Absolutely. You know, the first thing we'd have to do is tackle our property tax issue. And to do that, we have to deal with school funding and school taxes, because that's the bulk of our homeowners' property taxes. My partner, Assemblyman Ryan Peters, and I have a bill trying to relook at how we do school funding and make it more equitable and take the burden off of taxpayers. And we're not doing that now in New Jersey. You know, we're not fully funding our schools, so property taxes keep going up. And so that's the first thing that we'd have to do. We also have to make this a friendlier climate for businesses. It's very difficult for businesses here, and that was pre-pandemic. You know, the taxes are very high, unemployment insurance is going up, so it makes it very hard to run a small business. And that was before the pandemic, when we lost a third of our businesses because of the closures that were imposed by Governor Murphy. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it is doable.
Yeah. So kind of in a similar vein, what do you think about the defund the police movement that Democrats have been pushing?
Yeah, the Democrats have been pushing that whole theory of defunding the police, and it's a horrible concept. And it's going to hurt the very communities that we're trying to help the most, where crime is high. And, you know, I'm all for making sure that our police departments are behaving properly, and there are bad apples. And nobody wants to see a bad cop removed more than a good cop. And we can work towards those things. When I was sheriff, we did so many programs to bring the community together. We did police and teens together to help teenagers know, you know, this is what law enforcement's doing. This is why. You know, we looked at some of the scenarios and really examined it. We had them act out scenarios, pretending to be police officers, and it really opened up their eyes. And they were able to see things and why police do things a certain way, like why you don't just shoot someone in the foot to stop them and things like that. So that dialogue is so important. And again, we need more of that in our communities. And if you defund the police, these discussions aren't going to happen because they're not going to have enough officers, and they're not going to have the right kind of candidates coming forward in the future to be officers. And that's very scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that some of the Democrats have seen the polling, they're trying to shift their stance and say that Republicans are actually the ones that are defunding the police. So what would you tell candidates who are running for office, Republicans running for office? How can they counter that narrative and be like, no, it's not us. It is the Democrats and it has been the Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not been a Republican point at all. And I think the candidates have to be very firm about that, let people know where they stand, that, we support the police. We think, policing needs resources in order to do a good job. And it's getting that word out there, talking to people. And again, that communication piece is essential. We need to talk to people. We need to let people know where we stand.
The crime rate is spiking in major Dem-run cities across the country. As a former sheriff, what do you think is causing this increase in criminal activity?
The hands of the police officers have been tied by, the local governments and all the changes that have happened in some legislatures to really make police officers afraid to act. We've seen it in New Jersey. They passed a crazy bill that would have made it a criminal act for a police officer to intervene when a minor had either marijuana or alcohol. They did walk it back a little bit when they heard people were getting upset, but this is the kind of stuff that makes it very difficult for officers to go in and confidently do the jobs proactively like they need to do to really keep crime down. So it does make it very difficult.
If you were still a sheriff, what would you do if your police force were defunded by Democrats?
Well, I was very fortunate. I served under all Republican freeholder board, but had that been now and the tide has changed, if I lost funding, it would have obviously been very difficult to perform our core functions. Now, we did a lot of extra programs that I was able to get federal grant funding for. So if those federal funds were cut, I wouldn't have been able to do the Police and Teens Together program. I wouldn't be able to do a program for children with autism and seniors with dementia that might wander from home. We had a bracelet program for them, a search and rescue program. I wouldn't have been able to run our youth police academies and our Explorer posts that help us connect with kids and encourage them to become good officers in the future. So all of that would fall by the wayside. And it's very disturbing to see that in other departments.
So we mentioned this earlier. You serve within a government body in Trenton that's all run by Democrats. Being within the minority there, what is your biggest challenge in trying to advocate for your constituents who elected you?
It's difficult because, like you said, being the minority, we can say, no, 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 this is a bad bill. This is a terrible budget. Our last budget just increased spending ridiculously. And, we can say that and try to call people out and use public opinion to change things, but we don't have the votes to actually vote it down. And that does make it very difficult. But we've been successful in drawing attention to some of the issues and having them walk back some bills that have been very bad because of the public outcry we've been able to stir up.
What scares you the most about Democrats being in complete control of your state?
What scares me the most is that these aren't moderate Democrats. Many of them are extremists. We have a governor who says basically he wants to make New Jersey into the California of the East Coast. That terrifies me. Our pandemic crushed our businesses. We lost a third of our businesses, and taxes are going through the roof. So it's very scary.
So what would Republicans like you do if you were the one setting the agenda in Trenton?
If we were setting the agenda, the first and foremost thing we would do would be to reduce property taxes. And that can be done in a number of ways. Cutting state spending. Our governor currently has a budget that just went through that raised our taxes by 30%, our spending by 30% over the 3 years he's been governor. Like, that doesn't happen in any household. Exactly. So, we have to tackle the spending. We have to fully fund our schools. We have to make sure that we're using our money wisely, not on all these pork projects that they have. So there's work to be done, but we can do it.
So as a Republican woman who is serving as a public servant, what do you think the Republican Party needs to do to recruit more strong female candidates for office?
It's getting out there and talking to people. And I think it's good right now because women are seeing, the financial impact on their homes and their families. And, they're tending to be more interested in what's going on in the political world and seeing that they can shape things. But they need to see women out there leading the way. And we have to mentor people and, encourage them to take a chance. Running for office is a little bit daunting sometimes. and women are trying to juggle homes and families and jobs, and they need support from people that are already doing this to help them. So I do talk to quite a few women and try to encourage them, and we do programs with teenagers to also tell them about how they can get involved in politics, and start with being interns in our office. We have a bunch of great interns. So it's a long path to getting people engaged.
That's great. I love that, though. I know, like, when I first got involved in politics, I think I was like 13 or something like that.
That's amazing.
And yeah, like now I've been here over a decade, which is just kind of wild. So yeah, you get them young and you train them up, and that's how you get strong candidates. I think you're exactly right. What gives you the most hope about the future of the GOP as a whole?
I think people are coming back to the table and wanting to get involved. They're very disturbed by what they see at the national level, and the last few months, how things have drastically changed. And we're paying over $3 for gas, and people are losing their jobs on the pipeline, and how decisions are being made that are really negatively impacting our country. So, and unfortunately, even though we're local, people tend to, I think, start to engage in politics at the national level by paying attention to what's going on nationally. So people are getting upset. They're concerned about many issues that that they feel are being mismanaged right now. So I think they'll become more engaged, and I think we'll be able to gain some momentum from that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I know people are just so upset about everything that's been going on. And then when it impacts you personally, then, you're going to want to get involved and fight for change. And I think we're starting to see it now, and we're going to see it even more the closer that we get to the elections. All right. Well, Assemblywoman, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you and to hear your perspective on all of the craziness that's been going on, not just this last couple months, but, since Democrats have been in control in New Jersey. So, and thank you everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. And always remember, state politics have implications that are bigger than you think.